Hello and willkommen to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Why the German introduction? Well, we'll get to that in a moment if you stick around. Let's get to the crux of this one first, shall we? This is the start of another series around the middle of 2020. I did a series called A Baker's Dozen where I looked at 13 12-year-old Scottish single malts. And it was never, ever my intention to leave it there because there are too many good or even bad 12-year-old Scottish single malts out there to be spoken about. So it was always my intention to come back and review some more. So this is going to be the start of a second series looking at 13 12-year-old Scottish single malts. And this actually was this Glen Scotia 12-year-old seasonal release, limited edition, yada yada yada, was never intended to be in this series. I generally will have a series planned out for quite a few months before I'll go into that series, and I'll base it around what I have in my cabinet or something that I maybe want to review. So if that's the case, where if it's something that I want to review, I'll make a point of buying it and then getting to know it and then review it. So I had already planned to do a series on some more 12-year-old single malt Scotch whiskies when this came on the radar. Late, obviously now 2021. If you're watching this video at point of release, this has been around for a month or so now. And the reason why I wanted to review it was it's still available. And I know there are people sort of teetering on the edge of buying it, etc. And I've been asked if I'm going to review it. And I thought I would throw it into this series for the simple fact that I think it deserves a review. So this is a limited release from Glen Scotia. I'm not sure how many it's limited to. I'm sure someone can tell me. It doesn't appear to be too limited at the moment. As I said, it's still accessible. You can still get it. So what is it? Well, Glen Scotia, owned there by the Loch Lomond distilleries, the Loch Lomond group in Campbelltown. This is an unpeated malt. And there's a bit of a faff about the maturation in this one. This is matured in first fill bourbon casks and first fill bourbon casks, American oak hogsheads for 11 years, 11 of those 12 years. And then for another year, first fill Oloroso hogsheads. And then heavily charred American oak barrels. All gets married and released at cask strength. That cask strength is 54.7%. So as I said, it is a bit of a faff in what's going on there. It is non-chill filtered. There's no colour added. So it is all very natural, and we do like Glen Scotia. Well, I certainly do. So let's get into it. Now, the German introduction, there was a reason for that. I wasn't just doing that for no reason. I could wrap this up in one note. On the nose, for me personally, I could wrap it up in one note, or certainly start to wrap it up in one note. And that one note is Liebkuchen. Now, if you're not into your German cuisine, what is Liebkuchen? Well, it's a seasonal Christmas cookie, basically, and it's a spiced sort of cookie. It's kind of softer. What wouldn't be what we would understand or what we would know as a biscuit or cookie in the UK. It's kind of softer, slightly more chewy, spiced, and just full of flavour. And this just smells like Liebkuchen, And it was very, very easy then for me to do my tasting notes on the nose, because Liebkuchen, cinnamon, cloves, ginger. All I had to do was look up the ingredients for Liebkuchen. Nutmeg, orange, honey, cocoa powder. All these things were in the ingredients for Liebkuchen. The first one I looked up and I was able to just tick the boxes of all the notes I was getting in the nose of this. Allspice, it's all in there. Now I know there's an awful lot more goes into the making of leap cooking, but everything that I read, pretty much everything was there, and it made life an awful lot easier for me. Now, it does build on that. It doesn't just, the leap cooking is there. It does, for me, feel like the predominant flavour, the predominant note. But then, there's other things here. There's a hint of polish. And when I say polish, it always then makes me think of wood, of oak. So there is an oakiness. And the char is also noticeable. It's a tangy thing, tangy sort of nose. There's a hint of beeswax and of candied fruit. And I noticed when I poured it this time again, there's a great waft of toffee. So there's a lot at play here. There's a lot at work. I love it. I think it's a great nose because it's involving. It just gets you sucked in, and if you know what that leap cooking thing is, if you know that flavour, if you know that, then you'll probably appreciate it. I certainly do. So the palate is round, it's warm but not hot, sweet and sour and slightly savoury arrival. Absolutely everything that I said in the nose is in the palate. It still has that allspice, all that cinnamon and clove and honey, ginger, cocoa powder. It's so round and inoffensive. It is chocolatey. That caramel's there as well. More oak, more char. I said about it being inoffensive because it's sweet. It's a nice sweet, and that's what I mean when I'm saying inoffensive. It's sweet, but some of them I can find oversweet. This isn't. This plays well in the sweetness array. In that the sweetness tends to hang around in the middle. The sour goes where it should be, so it balances itself out very well. Yeah, oak, char, and a lovely cola note just on the run out, just before it gets into a long, memorable, relaxing, warming finish. It's not, yet again, I said earlier, it's warm, it's not hot. This is not a hot whiskey. Bottled at 54.7, did I say? So it's got a poke. It's cask strength. Doesn't feel like it. Does not feel like it. I think it's just so, I've said it before with things, Christmassy. This really has, I think this is the most Christmassy whiskey I've ever had. It's just got that, all the right gingery, spicy notes in all the right places. Yeah, this is class. I really do like this. I'm going to add a hint of water. It's a high ABV, but I added a wee drop of water there. I've said it about whiskies before, and I've said it recently about a whiskey, that this actually works better. This is more fun without water, I think. Now, it makes the nose, it does make the nose livelier, it makes it brighter, no less interesting. But only slightly, and I don't know whether it needs it. If it was overpowering at that 54.7%, I have to keep going back to that. If it was overpowering at the 54.7% water, yeah, bring it down. It's not. It's definitely not for me. It's just really warm and rich. It still feels good in the palate with the addition of the water. Maybe more of that oak starting to show now. Maybe more of that orange starting to show now. But it didn't need settling down. It was good as it was. Finish actually dries out a little with the addition of the water. It dries out a little quick. So, you know, water, yeah, no, it doesn't really matter. You know, personally, I would actually prefer it without water in it. It as you can see, I've been enjoying this one. It's hard to look past in my cabinet. 12-year-old, 54.7% cask strength, non-chill filtered, no colour added. It's, yeah, and when it really does tick the right flavour boxes, it is hard to look past. Now, there is a downside. There is a very, very big downside, I would say, to this one. This is £75 a bottle, and it's not like as if it's a negotiable price. It seems to be 75 and probably will go over, in that it's not going to show up on the secondary market for less than £75 a bottle. £75 a bottle for a 12-year-old is steep. Is it too steep? Well, that's entirely up to you, purchaser. It really is. There's no denying it. It probably got me at a weak moment. That's probably the best way to put it. I like Glen Scotia. This come on the market. I didn't look at it and think limited edition. I'll buy that, keep it, and maybe flip it at a later date. I bought it and thought, that sounds interesting. I'd like to try that. So that's what I've done. And it is, in my opinion, a bloody good whiskey. It's not up to me whether £75 is too much for it. Is it Glen Scotia taking the ball and running with it a little in regards to, I mean, they are riding a wave of popularity at the moment. There's no denying that. I don't know. I really don't know. What I do know, what I can tell you for certainty is I really like this. I really do. So we'll leave it at that and move on. Yeah, if you've liked this, it would be easy for me. It would be quite simple for the knee-jerk reaction to just say, look, if you like this, if you bought this on a whim and liked it, buy the Victoriana. Save yourself a tenner. Buy the Victoriana, the Glen Scotia Victoriana. Because Glen Scotia does, for me, have that gingery feel about it. So there's an awful lot of what's happened in this happens in the Victoriana as well. But it's just been, this has been tweaked, played with, added to. Would I say this is better than Victoriana? If you were putting me in the spot, yeah, I would actually. I think I would say it's better than the Victoriana, marginally. It's different. We'll not get into that debate. But what would I suggest if you like this? So as I say, it would have been easy for me to say, just step up by the Victoriana, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay with Loch Lomond though, and suggest this one. This was the Distillers edition, the Open Special edition, the Distillers Cut, bottled at 46%. I think this is still fairly readily available. Certainly I know locally this is still readily available. It's not too hard to get. It's not expensive. It is non-chill filtered. So, and I don't believe, I imagine there's a hint of colour added to this, but not an awful lot. This is more youthful. This feels more youthful, more creamy. But it's got that gingery edge that I find in Loch Lomond and Glen Scotia, which I really, really like. I usually don't drink while I'm doing this chat bit, but damn, that's good. So yeah, it is. It's more creamy. It's more youthful. Or, you know, certainly I would suggest a Loch Lomond, but this was the one for me that, if you like Glen Scotia, and not just Glen Scotia specifically, if you got this and liked it and you want to try something a little different, well, this is a little different. And it's a little different in that it's not Loch Lomond 12-year-old. It's not a standard run-of-the-mill Loch Lomond. It's not the Loch Lomond Classic. It's a little different, but it still has that gingery edge. There is a hint of that Liebkuchen yet again in it, which I really like. So, if you bought the Glen Scotia 12-year-old seasonal release limited edition and you liked it, I'm going to recommend you give Loch Lomond Distillers Cut the Open Special Edition a go. It's only a suggestion. Yeah. All day long for this one. Too expensive? That's up to you. So I'll leave it at that and say thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. If you wish to join that group, the details are, as always, below. I will leave it there and say for now, thank you very much again for joining me, my friends. Till the next time, here's your good health. Cheers. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.